Should be good. Boom. Look at that. We're live.
Woo, baby.
No clue whether or not. Oh, shit. We already got people here. We got people liking. We got all sorts of stuff. Comment. Let us know if you're here watching.
Yeah. Hopefully we have a good connection today.
Yeah. And let us know how the connection is. But like, we're going to treat this mostly as a podcast. Like, if it's rough, you know, as long as we can hear each other, that's the important thing.
Good morning, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Shy, the chat, Claire, Delaney. Hey, Delaney, how did the recruiting go? You met with the recruiting officer, I believe. So just checking.
Yeah, just checking in, baby.
I could be wrong. I'm really excited about today because once we kind of do the general. Oh, what's up, Marty? Been a second. Oh, it's tonight. All right. Well, everybody wish Delaney good luck. Mared, good energy, good vibes. I'm stoked about today's episode. We've been calling it the live good morning show, but since it's literally not morning, we decided to just call it coffee and tea.
Coffee and tea.
Oh my God, because we're spilling tea. Spilling tea about relationships and love and dating and all that. Tips and advice.
I love Tuesdays though, because it really is about like what this is about.
Yeah.
You know, which is what we're gonna dive into today.
Yeah.
You have some good stuff.
I'm pretty excited about this. In our research, I found an article on the independent.co.uk. Lots of dots. It's an internet site, but it was just an article that came up. I don't know anything about the Independent, so if it's something I should not be looking at, feel free to let me know in the comments below.
No, I've read some articles they write.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it, and it was about the 7 relationship habits that people get into and pitfalls that people get into and how to avoid them and how to get out of them. And so we are going to talk about those 7 relationship problems today. I believe the article was literally called, let me read it if I may, 7 hardest parts of being in a relationship and how to overcome them. We're going to talk about our personal experiences with all 7 of those things today. And I'll put timestamps below to each one of the 7 if you're like, I don't care about the first one or 2, but number 3 is definitely where my relationship is having trouble right now.
Totally. I'll also say this. I think that, obviously we didn't write the article, so we're just kind of like commenting on it. Yeah. I think there's so many hard, or if you will, tough parts to navigate in any relationship. I don't know if these 7 cover them all, but they are, definitely
they're pretty good though. They're valid points.
Valid points.
Like, I will say this, whether it was the Cosmo article that we did that one time or this kind of thing. And this, I think, is what Tuesdays will be driven towards in the future, is talking specifically about what is out there and our opinions on those things, and bringing our expertise and our life experience to those things. But we if it's not well written in any capacity, we're going to call that out. Like, these are completely unbiased reviews of what these things are. But today is actually not even about how they wrote it. It's just using those topics to talk about it. So I'm super excited. Feel free to comment over here on the sides. Let us know what you think of each one of these things. But we're pretty much just going to be talking a lot podcast style today. So you ready?
Yeah, let's jump in.
All right. Number 1, mutual respect. Now, I really like that they started with this one, that this is a hard thing for a lot of people. And it's something we talked about, I think, on game night, like for a moment. We kind of touched on, we just touched on within, or was it on Thursday's show when we were talking about the passive aggression?
Oh, yes, I think it was.
And Thursday, I think passive aggression has a huge deal to do with the amount of respect that you give to your partner and to, obviously, to yourself, how you know, how much integrity you hold yourself to. So,
I think it's a challenge sometimes. Mutual respect in any relationship, but let's stick to like maybe romantic relationships. Because I think in the beginning we are hopefully you're very respectful, right? And you're in that honeymoon phase, as it were. Everything is new, and but I think as time goes on, we start to sometimes, not always, lose I don't want to say like clear boundaries, but we don't uphold that respect that we had for the other person sometimes. Sometimes we, you take them for granted and you stop appreciating them so much. And I think the respect can start to dwindle and then cause problems, obviously, in turn. But like, I've found myself, I'm guilty of that,
100%.
Of receiving it disrespect and giving disrespect, just because I think we're less careful with each other.
Yeah, I think the more time you spend together, the more time you spend together, the more bound you are to feel that you have some say almost in what that person is.
Right.
Like, I know them so well, like, they always do this or what, and we stop. We take off those, and necessarily so at times we take off the kid gloves that I think we have on early in relationships.
Right.
But also there's just a level of a lot of times a lack of interest in caring enough about the other person. And I think that, that's what that's what respect is. But if it's not from both parties, you fucked. Like,
right.
One person cannot respect everything about, the relationship and that person.
Absolutely.
And hold them to a standard and hold themselves to a standard. And then the other person not do that, whether you are the other person, the good or the bad in the situation.
Right. And I think in order though, it goes back to that thing we always say, like, you have to choose each other every single day in all of your actions. Right?
Come on.
So, but that is such a, like, I think that's the deeper way of saying that. But if you are, consciously choosing each other, then you're consciously choosing to respect each other and putting, their needs, or taking them into account, in every decision that you make.
I like that you paused there.
Yeah,
it's not about putting someone else's needs first all the time. And I think that we're going to get into that in a later one to a degree, but it is accepting that if you are in a relationship with someone for whatever reason, and you are staying in that relationship for whatever reason, there has to be an amount of respect paid, not just to that person, but to yourself, to the relationship, because otherwise you're not in a relationship, you're roommates.
Right.
You're just, you're coworkers, you're surviving together, you're survivalists. You know what I mean? In the relationship sphere.
Right.
So yes, mutual respect. It can be hard. And I certainly understand that.
I think you definitely have to like stay active. You have to like keep yourself accountable, and you have to.
I said this to you recently, where we were talking about how necessary it is for us to. I lost my train of thought.
You lost the train. Yeah. You lost the train.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
No, that's good.
Fuck, what was I talking about?
You said we were talking recently about...
No. It was a conversation that you and I were having. See, this is why it's always fun to do these lives, because when we're having the conversations together, and we're together having these conversations and nobody else is here, they seem to flow really well. But then when we sometimes we'll get on these lives and my brain just goes to mush because you're focused on everything else as opposed to each other. And I think there's a level of that mutual respect. What I was saying was, recently I brought up the fact that over time you tend to forget how special somebody is. And that's where that mutual respect comes from. You forget though what that feeling was when you first met them. The reason you respected them so much was because you were learning so much about them. I remember learning how driven you were about Angelina's meatballs and learning so much about you, and just being like so blown over by who you were, how much care you gave by cooking food all the time, and how much love you gave to your friends and how much time you spent.
Right.
But then over time, I got used to that. And so I stopped giving as much admiration and respect because I started expecting it. In a way.
I understand that.
And I think when we start expecting things, we stop respecting our partners. When we start expecting things of ourselves, we stop respecting ourselves in those ways. When we just accept that, well, that's just who they are, whatever, why should I, and then it just falls apart.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really important part of it.
I do too. That's a great way to explain it.
Nice. All right, let's go to the comments. Hello everybody. Hello T, Kimmy, Delaney,
Oh, I
Marty.
love hanging out with you guys.
Y'all are the best. Where are we at? I still can't see well. Hey, Megan. I'm not looking for anything anymore.
Meg.
I don't have time, patience, esteem, becoming better, and only have room for my kiddos. Well, you know what, Kimmy? That is hugely important that you can admit that. But for your kids, how do you move forward and help yourself, right? How do we take care of ourselves so that we can love others better, so that we can be better examples for them?
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, a lot of the things on the channel are helping you figure out ways to do that. But thank you for being so honest. I love that. Fabiana, hello.
Welcome.
I have a lot of respect for everyone here on the chat. Yes, us too. We appreciate that. All right, let's move on to number 2. Now, this is one we have not had to do in a while, but actually caused problems, interestingly, in our relationship. Number 2 is defining the relationship.
Yeah, it's funny they put this in the relationship, in this thing of problems in relationships, but early on, I think that's a problem for
a lot of relationships.
A lot of people, yeah. And there is always that, I don't want to say it's always awkward, but there is always this awkward moment of, do you feel the way that I feel? And I don't want to be the first one to say, like, are we like official? Should we like do this? Are we like boyfriend and girlfriend? Or like,
well, I think that it gets put the caveat, or not the caveat, the kind of way that it's looked at most often is that it's the connotation is that it's early on in the relationship is when this is a big thing, but it's also very important later in the relationship. I got engaged to you because I asked you to marry me to show you what my intentions were before, and we've talked about this a lot, before we were really at a place other than just starstruck, dumbstruck, love-struck kids.
Yeah.
Other than that, there were other things that weren't kind of in place yet. And I just wanted to define the relationship by saying, look, we are engaged.
This is how serious it is. So.
We are going to do these things.
Right.
And then we got married at a time that we hadn't dealt with a lot of things. And you know what I mean? I think that marriage is pushed on so many people in so many societies. Marriage, kids, these things that are, define the relationship. And I know they're saying just the boyfriend, girlfriend, cutesy thing. But
no,
I think
but that's a great way to
further
think about it. Yeah. I think that's a great, I didn't even think past that. I feel embarrassed.
Well, what are the things that define a relationship? I mean, in standard society, right?
It's marriage. And then you take it, or, really, I mean, that's I think what at least a lot of us like fall into, like, well, it's not serious until, you're somehow life partners in whatever way legally. Right. And then we solidify that by having kids. If you don't have kids yet, well, is there something wrong? Like they don't have kids yet, like, and it's like, where did we get all of these ideas that this has to define your relationship, or that your relationship isn't, I guess, real if you don't have A, B, and C in place.
100%. But I think that's the pitfall that starts at the very beginning of relationships. It starts with us being like, and what they talk about in the article, when I kind of skimmed through it, was they were saying that in today's society, we are very easily able to just swipe onto another person, and now we have a relationship here where we're texting this person, and is it a real thing? And when do we decide that it's a real thing? And when are we? And just no matter what era you dated in, past the 40s and 50s,
right.
Like any situation where there was always going to be a situation where someone said, well, I put my pen on you. I want us to go steady. I want us to be official. And then when that stuff stopped happening, there was suddenly this, well, are we? And I know for our generation, there was a lot of that.
Oh yeah. I too am sort of guilty of that. thing where it was like, well, I didn't say we were exclusive.
Oh
you
my
know?
God, that.
And that
that's very,
I
very
think
true, though.
is where like a lot of millennials are and the younger generations, like we're like, well, I didn't say it. So like, obviously you have to assume that we're not exclusive until we say we're exclusive. But like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I think that is like, you know,
I think it's more,
you're not, if you're wondering, you're really not communicating your actual true feelings or vice versa, you know? So like, I don't know. What do you think?
No, I mean, I don't think it's very hard.
Yeah.
I think it's very telling if somebody doesn't. Now, when you get into the marriage and the down the road kind of social pressures aspect, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about just dating, like as soon as I was like, yeah, let's be boyfriend, girlfriend. Like
Right.
I want to claim you as my girlfriend. You're awesome and hot. Like I wanted that so badly. And so, you know, that was a huge, I wanted that. And so I told you that I wanted that.
Right.
And, you know, and I feel like vice versa. There wasn't a whole lot of like worry there.
No, we never went
I feel
through
like
that.
if you do have trouble defining the relationship, then there's some issue that needs to be talked about that's much larger than whether or not you call yourself boyfriend and girlfriend. Totally.
And there have been people that I'm saying like that I dated that I was kind of like avoiding that conversation because I was like, I'm having fun, but I don't necessarily want to commit. So let's just avoid that conversation because it just allows me to like kind of
I don't hate you.
Explore,
I don't not enjoy spending time with you or having sex with you or whatever this thing is, but I do not want to only be doing those things with you.
Right.
Like I'm gonna go over here.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments. Let's go to the comments.
Hey,
Kelly Goff. Hello, beautiful people. My ex and I never defined the relationship. Like we never said we were boyfriend and girlfriend. He just moved in with the kids. See, there you go. I think it, again, it always depends on who you are and if you know what that is. Like I had teachers, there were a pair of teachers in my college, were very, very like hippy dippy, beautiful souls. They were amazing people to be around. Mm-hmm. They'd been together. I remember the number 57, like they had been together for 57 years.
They must have been really old.
Oh, they were fairly old. But they never got married. They never got married or anything, but they were also of a different generation that was, you know, that was their whole vibe. But they were like, a government piece of paper does not mean this. And, you know, society's ideas of our relationship do not define our relationship. Absolutely. Just like, I think you and I talked about this recently. It's really hard sometimes when you feel a certain way or love someone so much to define it, puts it in a sphere where everybody else can understand it, but they can't necessarily understand it. You know, I can espouse my love for you on here for, you know, a year openly, and nobody has any clue of how much I actually love you.
And I think it's also like marriage, you know, we put it way up here, right? And we go, well, if they're married, then they're really serious or they really love each other. But like 99% of people that I know that are married shouldn't be married. Like I will say that, like
the fact that there's only a 50% divorce rate always surprises me. I'm like, really? It's only 50?
Just, you know, out of guilt or, you know, whatever, different reasons. But I'm not trying to be, I'm not negative, you guys, but I do take marriage so seriously that I do think you need to think about it to the nth degree. And if really put it on that pedestal before you make the decision to go for it. Not to say that if you don't get married, that your relationship isn't as serious, but like, let's bring back that standard of marriage.
I completely agree with that. And that's one that this is a side topic tangent that I'm really excited we're getting into. And I cannot wait to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Throw it down in the comments below. This will be the comment question of the day. What do you think about the institution of marriage as it stands now? Because that's like all I ever wanted. All I ever wanted was true love. I know we were both obsessed with love.
Right.
and we searched so long for each other. And then, marriage was a part like of that legally.
Right.
But that thing that we held in such high regard and hold in such high regard is so often just like, what's the classic guys thing of like, ball and chain.
Right.
The old thing that weighs me, and I just,
like,
if
why?
you look at marriage like that, don't be married. That's okay.
It's so easy.
Just don't be married.
Yeah. Because it brings out the worst in you if that's how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Like, no one needs you to do this thing.
Yeah.
It's not
you
helping
deserve
anybody.
You deserve better.
Right.
They deserve better. Like,
and I also have to say a little bit
room.
of a side topic, but now that we're facing something that seems like such a prehistoric issue of possibly losing gay rights to marriage.
Okay.
It makes me go, like, I think if we are to lose that in any foreseeable future, hopefully, not, hopefully, God forbid, but it makes me I think we've lost track of what marriage really is about, and like, but again, that's my romantic heart. And really it was just a legal institution that we like.
Yeah. I was going to say, to be fair, the institution of marriage, like,
is an institution, not like,
if you know the history of marriage, and then that marriage has a very sordid past that has literally nothing to do.
One of the greatest books. So my favorite author is Elizabeth Gilbert. What was that? She wrote a book about her first marriage and like how difficult it was for her to, because she just didn't ever want to get married, and then she finally fell in love with this man, and it's like the sequel to Eat, Pray, Love, and she really talks about what happened there. But she talks. I'll put it in the link, the book. Either she talks about like the institution of marriage and the history of it, and it's fascinating.
Yeah.
If you want like a history lesson on
oh my God,
what really went down and why we created marriage. Fascinating.
It's incredible. So let's get in here. Megan, I'm a sponge and hey, Courtney. I'm a sponge. Got a question. My boyfriend, soon to be fiance, told me that his best friend will be on his own sometime next year, and he and him have already talked about living together, all three of us. Oh shit, Megan. It was decided that all I wanted was marriage because I'm good. Got out of that relationship. Yes, you did, Claire. I have no problem with his best friend, but his only argument is, would you want to be a married couple living with your parents? But my argument is, why can't we just live on our own? Sorry for the two-part question. No,
that is my question for him as well, Megan. Why would you not live on your own?
Yeah. Is it a financial issue where he's saying like, look, we can either live with your parents or though we're married, will need a roommate. At which point, is there an available like dual entry duplex situation or, with a separate apartment or a separate garage or,
Yeah.
Like, there may be a way to do it that if it's about finances.
Yeah.
But if you don't seem worried about that, then maybe if it's not about finances, then you need to, I'd say talk about that and get that shit out in the open.
Yeah.
I'm old fashioned. I believe couples should be married, but again, that's how that works for me. Fair. Morning, guys. Hey, Melissa. Claire, love, and always wanted to be married. True love with my soulmate, bonded together forever. Hopeless romantic here. Preaching the choir. Love us some hopeless romanticism. You want to read Kelly's?
Yes, I think that. Oh, you okay?
My eye is getting blurry.
That one eye. Depends on the people and the relationship. If you go into it knowing it's casual or with more intense intentions, some hesitate if they don't know their partners are on the same page. Yeah,
totally agree with that. I think but that's the nice thing about one of the ones that actually the next one on the list that's coming up, which is talking about communication. We're going to get into that in a second. And I'm sure that's going to take a minute.
Yeah.
But it's, when you get into it, and I think I talked about this in the Stop Lying, Stop Pretending, Stop Acting video,
yes.
Which was a lot of times we get into relationships with certain intentions, right? Like, but if you don't know what the other person's intentions are, as long as you're honest with yours, theirs aren't I don't think at first your responsibility. At a certain point, if you become aware that their intentions seem more intense than yours, you got to talk about that. But yeah, no, I think early on, like that's what this thing is, that defining the relationship, that conversation. It's interesting though, that what they're talking about, which is just, are we boyfriend or girlfriend, is like one of the 7 hardest parts of a relationship,
right?
Because it's not a fun conversation sometimes, but it's not that it's not fun. It's just awkward because you like, I don't want to risk messing this up, but
right.
okay,
Well, our egos get in the way.
Yeah,
and we're
it's
like,
just
I don't want to
awkward.
be
It's
stupid.
not
I don't want to be the
hard.
first one that tells you I really like you.
Yeah,
you know,
the first one to say I love you.
Yeah,
the first one to say those things. But if you feel that way, if you only love somebody if they say I love you back, you don't love them.
No.
If you only want to be someone's, well, then again, actually that one, I was going to say, if you only want to be someone's boyfriend or girlfriend, if they want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, but that one doesn't add up, because if they don't want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, you shouldn't want them. That's fine. Deuces, fuck you. Get out of here. All right. It's financial, yes, but I don't want to kick his friend to the curb.
Sometimes you have to put yourself first, Megan.
Yeah.
I hate to say that, like, because I know it's a friend, but friends, family, sometimes you have to put yourself in your relationship first. What's best for you guys first.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest thing that I've learned about our marriage, is that we have to put ourselves first in a lot of different circumstances and situations that are sometimes uncomfortable, that do involve friends or family. But if we're not solid, if we separately aren't solid and solid together, like nothing in our universe goes well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That said, if you are, it seems like you're not, but if you're fine with the roommate being, a part of the household, then, like, great. Like, as I do it to it. Cheers.
Who we got? Megan, Christy. I'm good being single right now. Once my girls have graduated, I might be open to dating. Holy cow, I'm set in my ways. I'm proud of you though, Christy, for acknowledging that. I think that's like a really huge step to take, and like, you're such a dedicated mom. So I think, that all of your time right now needs to be about them. And that's what I can feel, what you want in your heart. And then, when you'll have more time on your hands, and maybe you can like rediscover things that you want, you're going to have that time to like relearn all the things about yourself and new things, and find people maybe that you never really knew you were attracted to.
Yeah. And also that's totally fine if you're set in your ways. Because part of being set, because I think there's a difference. We call it the same thing, but there's a difference in being set in your ways and knowing who you are.
Yes.
Like, I have become very set in my ways about certain aspects of my life, about how I love, how I spend my time, who I'm willing to give my time to.
I think though, there are certain good absolutes that very few, but a couple that we live in. But for the most part, we do, even though you're set in your ways per se, in some positive ways, we try not to live in absolutes.
Yeah, no.
For the most part, like, because nothing is ever black and white, and is set in our ways as
there's
we may
very
be.
Few things that are black and white.
Yeah, some people will come into our life and affect us in such a way that we're like, whoa, I never saw it like that, or I never expected to feel this way, and it kind of opens up your whole world, and it could happen at 110 years old. You don't know.
Yeah. So I dig that. Good on you. Husband is a mama's boy. We moved in with his mom after her husband passed away to help her. Everyone leave. I need to be on my own. Oh my God. I like that you're again, the honesty on this chat thread is always my favorite thing. The live chat is lit with honesty.
I mean, it's a great safe place to kind of like get it off your chest.
Well, I like that though. Like you understand that you need some time on your own. And I mean, I think it's important also to let him know what you need.
Right.
And if you're letting him know, hey, I need time with you, which PS is going to come up in a second. I need time with you. I need time alone. I get it that we're here doing this and I love this. And that is not separate from what I'm about to say, but also
Yeah.
I am your wife. I need these things.
I mean, again, I think
there's a way to do it non-selfishly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think that, again, like at least for us, the thing about marriage is that you both come first above family, above friends, above, anybody else. You guys have to be good. Otherwise, your foundation is wobbly,
Yeah, 100%.
And nothing goes well.
Like literally. All right. We're on the same page. Always annoyed each other. Think and tend to finish each other's sentences. And winds my mom and dad up. Understandable, guys. Thanks for this. Of course, Megan. I've dated men that were so intimidated by me and my career, my independence, even my woodworking skills. Oh, Christy, I didn't know you did woodworking. They were afraid of a strong woman.
Some guys are.
Cheers, Megan. Yeah, some guys 100% are. We talk about this on the refinery. We talked about this in the Let's Talk About Sex episode. And I actually thought about that episode yesterday just because while I was driving around doing my vocal exercises, I was thinking about one of the things, a comment that I had made in there was a lot of guys say they want a strong woman, but then when they get a strong woman, they don't want that. And the guest who was on with us was like, well, even that term strong woman. And then it kind of got, the conversation went a different direction. And then by the time, I had kind of forgotten to comment on that. But what I meant to say was a strong woman is a multitude of things. There's a million things that involves, and it can be a million things to a million different people. Women in general just existing are incredibly strong. I don't even know how you do it and how you put up with us. I don't get it. That said, what I should have said and what I meant to say and what I hopefully will remember to say in the future is a lot of men, I know I wanted a strong-willed woman. I wanted a partner with a strong will, with a strong constitution. I wanted someone that would not just stand up to me because they were comfortable with me. I wanted someone who would stand up for themselves, who would stand up to the world and say, this is what the fuck I believe, and this is what the fuck I'm going to do. You don't get to tell me what that is. I think that the problem that lies in that is that we do live in a society that tends to have men that say they want that. That's the new thing. Guys say they want a strong-willed woman, and then they get it and they don't understand. Well, I didn't mean with me.
Right.
I meant with everybody else. Like, don't push me so much. Like
they're still not okay with the like the even.
With a true even Stevens.
Like
we've said this a lot before. Our relationship has, I am the traditionally feminine role in a lot of ways. Like I am way more emotional. I cry way more often. I want to talk about things way more.
Right.
Like,
yeah. And there are times where I can just like, I don't want to use the term like, workhorse, but like I can keep it in. I can just keep my head down and power through until I, internally explode. At which point then,
then we switch. And then there's a whole other aspect though, but there's also like, as far as the physical department goes, you are very much like I trust you to take care of me.
Right.
Like when we're driving, we've driven places before. Well, okay, I love this story. We lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, right after that was our first apartment outside of New York, right? So we're living there. It was, I think, right after we finished West Side, or while we were finishing West Side. It was right after. Yeah. And we were. I
don't really know what
there was a Target that was less than 1 mile from our house, because Hoboken, New Jersey is only 1 square mile, and the Target was a stone's throw away from the end of the block of Hoboken. And we had driven there 10, 20, times. 50, a million literal times, figurative, literal. And one day, and just like, I'm going to go to Target. And I was like, okay. And she was like, how do I get there? I was like, you can almost see it from our apartment. Like, it's right there. And she was like, but I don't know how to get there. And I was like, how do you not know? And she goes, well, I never look up when you're driving. Like, I never look up because you're taking care of it. It's the same thing physically. It's the
I
same,
also
like,
have slight ADD and
yes,
I'm slightly dyslexic. Very dyslexic.
also those things. But the irony of our gender roles constantly flip. And I think it's one of the strengths of our relationship is that we don't have traditionally assigned gender roles in those ways.
Mhm.
I drive most of the time because I love driving and she doesn't. She gets bored, as you said the other day, after 20 minutes, you start to go cross-eyed and just be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
Whereas I could drive for 20 hours before I get bored of it. You know, woodworking, probably a mix.
It's
Probably
definitely a
50-50.
mix. It's definitely a 50-50.
Her more, but I want to learn.
But I'll also say this too. My other favorite author, Glennon Doyle Melton, she just put out a book a couple months ago called Untamed. If you haven't read it, go get it. I love her. But she was talking about how, we genderize each other so much, and how not just our men, men want a strong-willed woman and then they get it and they're like, so not about it. Same thing with women. Women want a man that we say is emotionally available and a man that can cry and feel things and talk to me. And the funny thing is now a lot of women are getting that and they're like totally turned off. Because they're like, well, he's such a mush and he's a crybaby and he's a blah, blah, blah.
Wants to talk about his feelings all the time.
Everything.
I want a guy. I want a man.
Right. And it's interesting. Like we put each other in these boxes.
But it all circles back to that first thing about mutual respect.
Yeah.
I think it circles back to this thing where there has to be, also, I think it's necessary covering these first, two. Jesus, we're on the first two topics.
We might have to break
we're going to break this into two. We'll do the first 3 or 4 and then, double back next week. But talking back about the mutual respect, it goes back to that, remembering that the person that you are in a relationship with is also a person. Yes. They are not your husband or your wife. They are not your thing. They are a person who happens to be your husband or your wife. They are not there just to always make you happy. They're existing. And if you've chosen, now this is why more tying in, just pulling in all the tie-ins, marriage is when you decide that you want this other person who is like, we are a couple. Yes. And I love that we are a couple. You on your own have to be your own strong individual. You on your own have to drive yourself. I on my own have to be a driven, solid individual who wants to choose to be in a relationship with you.
Yes.
That is the only way that a successful relationship, there's a blue jay just right on our porch and she hasn't seen a blue jay.
It's beautiful, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So sorry. But you have to, they're two individual people that are choosing each other. And when you decide to do that for the rest of your life, that is a big decision. It's not just, hey, we'll get married and now you're my wife and oh, my wife's such an asshole or my husband's such a dick. Like,
right. Like
you're choosing this. And if you don't continue choosing that, you don't continue respecting them as individuals and asking for that and respecting yourself enough to go, I have the integrity. I'm so sorry I'm talking so much. But
no, I think
I'm
it's
passionate
great
about this.
But if you do get to a point where you're like, well, there's such an asshole, and you're like, well, you have the right to leave.
Yeah. You have,
and you
take care of yourself. We talk about self-love all the time.
Respect yourself enough to know where that line is drawn. Did you try? Did you communicate? Did you put in enough time? Did you, express what you needed and what you needed to give back?
Are you?
Are you?
Not even did you? I think when we say did we, because
it's not a one-time thing.
Yeah. Because there were times that I really didn't do any of the right things in our relationship, but I am doing those things and I have been doing those things for a little bit. Right. Like, you are doing the things that make you better. Yeah. Which is why, I think the relationship is getting stronger. Yeah.
Gross.
That's
what's going on?
Where are we at? Relationships can sometimes be annoying, though, as there are a couple of colleagues that used to date, and once they broke up, it turns awkward between them.
I mean, that's life.
That's life.
That's just, you dip your pen in the company ink when you knock the inkwell over, ink gets everywhere. There's something to that.
Claire, yeah, guys have been intimidated by me too. Always a tomboy, learn how to fix up bikes, cars, etc. Building work, put a few up, they're lost.
Exactly. But I dig it. If you anytime that you have a skill or a love or a passion or something that drives you, and you meet somebody and they disagree, and they're like, ugh, like, why do you like that? Or why do you do? Well, okay, fuck off.
They're
Like,
not for you. Yeah.
bye. There's so many other people in the world.
Totally.
Deuces.
Hi, Nydia. I'm good being single for now, but love the advice. If there's one couple I look to for advice, that's very, very sweet. Thanks, dude.
Thank you.
That's what I do. I hold in everything, put me least always, and just do what I need to do for the family, because that's what I felt I was supposed to do. I guess there's no one that wants that.
Well, there's definitely a lot of people that want that want,
Sort of, yeah, it's easier to be in a relationship with someone who, is kind of just there to exist to make their life easier.
Yeah,
If you're just feeling like a servant role, basically. But then there's going to come a point where you yourself break, and you're like, no, I deserve more. I want more.
Yeah.
Which goes back to you having to, say, I deserve this kind of respect, and lifting yourself up and getting yourself out of whatever situations that you shouldn't be in.
Dig it. Exactly, Claire. We still need to, be loved, cuddled, listened to, and have a companion to grow old with. Just because I could jump on my motorcycle to Home Depot doesn't mean I don't want to be loved. Fucking A. So true. So true. All right, we're just going on through.
See,
dip your pen in the company ink. It's a good one.
I dipped my pen in there and I came out pretty good.
Hey. What? With who? Oh,
With
right.
you, with
me.
you.
Right, with me, because we're married. All right, let's go to number 3, because we are literally only on number 3, which is amazing. We're going to break this up into 2. We'll talk about this one, which we've talked about a little bit. I say we'll do the first 4 today, and then we'll kind of begin with number 4 again when we come back next week. Number 3 is lack of communication.
Well, that's the number one problem, I think, in pretty much all relationships.
Yeah. Intrapersonal and interpersonal.
Yeah.
So whether you're dealing with other people or dealing with yourself, I think lack of communication, lack of honest communication is hands down the number one killer of relationships, killer of love.
It's truly hard to look at somebody and not just to express to yourself before you express to them, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I need, this is what I'm not getting, or vice versa, and then say it out loud to that other person. That's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's even harder a lot of times is doing it for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that is something, I know we talk about it a ton on the channel: journaling, writing, typing, do whatever you need to do, but get your thoughts out of your own brain about yourself.
Once you see it on this paper, you have to then look at it and go, I wrote that. That means it's real. It's true. Out. The cat's out of the bag. And you kind of have to look at it.
I always talk about it. I call it the Jack Kerouac. You gotta go Jack Kerouac on it, and that's that free form writing. The book On the Road was written on it's just like one long thought, lacking most punctuation or capital. Like, it's not about making sure it's grammatically correct or there's commas in the right places and it's capitalization. It's just, these are my thoughts. These are my thoughts. These are my thoughts. And if you do that, if you start just writing literally whatever you're feeling, eventually you'll get to a place where you start really pouring out the truth. And then you go, okay. And that's such a necessary thing, whether you're typing it or writing it or doing however you do it. Sit and record yourself. I don't like this as much because you can easily delete that. But if that's like a first step for you, for me, it was literally when I started working in TV and film, and I was filming myself all the time. And I started having to look at myself here with the channel, looking at not our scripted stuff, but the stuff where we were just in between takes and in between what we were talking about, looking at each other and talking, I realized how I talked to you or what tone I took if I felt a certain way.
Mhm.
And I started being able to put together, oh, this is what I feel in that moment. This is how I come off.
Yes.
And I think if we do that with regards to writing and journaling,
Mhm.
it's going to help as well, of looking at it and going, oh, this is what I feel, but wow, that comes across really angry. This comes across really
It
meek.
comes back
This
to that
comes across-
self-awareness
Yeah.
of being like, how does that, actually come across?
Yeah. Am I helping myself or hurting myself by talking about myself this way, by doing these things? Am I complaining, or am I doing something to help myself, or am I complaining about my situation? I know I tend to do that a lot. I get really upset about a situation and I just sit there and stew over it. And then I find myself an hour or two later being like, and it's usually with me or my career. And I'm like, wait a second. This is not helping me at all.
Right.
What could I be doing? Oh, I guess I could be doing some research for, this role or for this thing.
Yeah.
Instead of just complaining about how much work it's going to be,
Yeah, totally. I also think that because it's difficult to communicate and scary sometimes to communicate what you're truly feeling, like I've had this less in our relationship, but looking at past relationships, when I've been nervous to communicate exactly how I was feeling because I was nervous about how the other person would react. And so
Yep.
I would deafen the inside, and just like push it all down, damp it down. And, I ended up by doing that and by not really communicating, you end up being passive aggressive. I remember being so angry, but not wanting to actually address the problem. So I just came across like moody or passive aggressive or overly emotional instead of just saying, what exactly I was feeling. It just causes so many other problems, and then it manifests, and I don't know, it turns into something that it really isn't, just because we're afraid of, expressing how we really feel because of maybe how the other person will react.
Yeah.
Which you can't really control how they're going to react. And if,
but accepting that again is that mutual respect of they are another person. This is another human being that I am in a relationship with. It does not mean that I get a fucking say in how they feel.
Right.
But you do have a say in how you feel, or at least how you respond to those feelings. And so
there's no way you can be truly close to somebody if you're not actually communicating, because they don't actually know how you feel then. And so then in turn, they don't really know you, on the deepest level. So
nailed it. 100%.
Hundo,
bro. Let's get in here, Kelly. Lack of communication killed my last relationship, made it a guessing game in his feelings. It took me dragging it out of him to tell me how he really feels or wants. That's the thing, though. That is a seemingly waning, but traditionally masculine, trait that we don't talk about our feelings. Real men don't have to talk about their feelings, and all that bullshit, all that fucking women shit, man. Bullshit, football, beer.
What's funny is I haven't dated a lot of guys where I've had to pull the feelings out. I've also dated some
fucking psychos.
So they made it very apparent how they felt. But yeah, I can't imagine how frustrating that must be when you're constantly trying to pull emotion out of somebody, and I think it is classically male. Actually, I shouldn't say that. And I'm definitely not calling him out, but my brother and I struggle with that sometimes. He's very that typical masculine sometimes, until he gets to a certain point, and then he's an open book with me. But I'm like, why are you holding back? Just tell me what you're thinking. And
I have friends like that.
You do, yeah.
And I grew up with friends like that, where it takes a while to break in, and then, but it happens every time. Now it's different if you're in a relationship with somebody, because those emotions are inextricably linked to Michael Scott over here, Michael Scott from The Office, not Michael James Scott. He's amazing, national treasure. but they're so connected to who we are.
Yeah.
They're so connected to the relationship, that honesty, those feelings. And again, I'm gonna always bring it back to, if you know your feelings and why you have those feelings, that is super duper important.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will come to you sometimes and be like, or vice versa, and just be like, blah, word vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay,
No.
what do I do now with all
now
of that word vomit? Like, do you have anything to bring up? Like, or did you just want to say that's how you feel? Like, why do you feel like that? Is there something I can do? Kind of the old adage, as it were, of, don't come to me and tell me there's a fire in the building. Come to me with a way to put the fire out, or how to get people out of the building. Like, don't just come in and be like, there's fire.
Yeah.
What do I do? You're like,
right. But to even get to that point is hard for people just to like express what it is that
there's a fire
they're feeling. Yeah. And so I can only imagine that's frustrating. And at a certain point, and I know Kelly, you got to that point, you're like, if you're putting in this work and you're communicating, I need more over and over again, and you're being open and you're dragging it out, and the other side isn't doing the work with you. I mean, you did the right thing for yourself. You put yourself first and said, I need more than this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you for that.
Also, I do want to say one thing with regards to just relationships in general. We're talking about the hardest parts of relationships, and we are done. Well, that's, part one, the first 3 of 7 hardest parts of relationships. But I think it's really important that we talk about the fact that we always say, essentially, like, go sow your seeds, like get out there, get out there, you crazy kids. But
date everyone you want to date.
I mean, date, but
it teaches you about yourself.
But I think there's this thing where we have our first relationship, whatever that is, and we're learning all these things, we're feeling all these feelings, and then it almost always goes sideways.
Of course.
Like, that's just life, right? And I think that then we get into protection mode, and then there's so many of us in the world that say things like, you're gonna have a broken heart. Like, there's no good men out there. There's no good women out there. All men want her this. All women want her this. All relationships suck, or blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so much shit talking about marriage in general, like about being married, not about the institution of marriage. That thing's all crazy. But I think there's so much of that we forget. We are going to date a ton of people. Yeah. And if we're lucky, we're going to eventually find one that we really dig, but we are going to be there for the whole journey. So we should really like us. Yeah. Because you're the only common denominator that's going to be around you for your whole life. Right. Like, you're married to yourself forever. 100%. So make sure you like who yourself is.
Right. And again, how can you expect that other person on the other end to love you if you don't love yourself, if you don't love who you are and can't stand behind what you're doing and your actions are day to day?
Yeah. If you don't know what those are, how can you expect them to understand them? If you don't care enough to accept that you're going to date a bunch of people and it's going to hurt. Fuck. Yeah. I do say it's analogous to auditions, in the sense that, do you know how many fucking auditions I go on, or like the self-tapes I send in that I want to work out so bad? There's so many jobs that we all want. And especially in performing, you hear no so often.
All the time.
And then every once in a while you hear yes. And it's fucking awesome.
But I think what you're trying to say is the product that you deliver in the room or in the tape or whatever, and I can stand by this too, you have to stand by that product, like, solidly.
And
if they don't like it, great, fine, maybe you're not a match. But what you have to be proud of, what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And know that it is worth it. Know that it is good.
Yeah. And not just wait to be your best self for when you find the person that, will make you your best self.
Right.
Like, that is the one, if we were talking about, I don't want to say regrets, because for some reason it just has such a nasty connotation, but I'm not really scared of the word regret. Everything that I ever did brought me to you. So I'm very thankful for that, multiverse, whatever theory, but I do regret not being my best self until I met you, because even with you, I wasn't my best self. I am now, and we're always becoming better versions of ourselves.
Right.
But I would have loved to have been my best self and been strong enough to say in other relationships what I really felt, not rudely, not passive aggressively, not just, act shitty and be like, well, they suck. They're terrible people. And,
Right.
or, I wish I could have just stood strong in my beliefs and been like, oh, that is how you feel. I so wholeheartedly disagree with that I can no longer be in a relationship with you and would rather be single, and be cool with that.
Right.
I think the more people that we can raise that remember that they have to be taken care of in a relationship by themselves. I wrote a little thing about this last night, and I'll post it up on one of our things soon, maybe on the site. But we, to a certain degree, and this is for lack of another word for it, but we are our own parents at a certain point in life. At a certain point in life, you have to look at the broken parts of yourself and go, hey, this is what we have to do to get past this. These are and if you don't know how to do that, you have to look to mentors and to books and to things, and you're here with us.
So you have to
doing
actively
that.
want it, because only you can save you.
Yeah.
Truly.
And you have to learn those things so that you can help yourself out of these situations. It doesn't mean that you're supposed to innately have this knowledge,
Right.
but you do have to, ask people, and whether it's literally people in your circle or books, or, the philosophers have been asking these questions for generations. Don't worry. One of them has the answer to the question. The questions have all been asked, but you've got to look, and you have to do that so that you can take care of yourself. And to do that, you have to, care about yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to communicate with yourself to do those things.
One topic that I'm going to save for maybe not next week, but maybe the following week, is I want to talk about, because when we're saying, not communicating and looking to the other person to make us happy or whatnot, Esther Perel talks about this a lot, and she is a sex therapist that deals with a lot of couples where she's incredible, but where they've gone through, divorce, or, someone is cheating or whatever it is. And she looks at it in such an honest way. And she always says that both parties partake in cheating, which at first, when I wasn't as educated, this was years ago when I discovered her, I was intrigued. So I read her book, Mating in Captivity, and it's unbelievable the perspective shift that I had with that. And we've never dealt with that. Yes, it's an incredible book.
Sorry.
If you
Hide your
sorry.
face.
Hide my face.
Mating Activity, Esther Perel. Check it out.
Go get this book if you've ever struggled with it. I just am curious about love, and so I was like, I want to know what this means. But it actually helped me, even in our relationship, as far as not about cheating, but about just rediscovering our own worth sparks the relationship, right? So I just would love to talk about that maybe in a couple of weeks, about cheating is really a two-parter situation, even though you think that one party may not have anything to do with it. It's two parts. And also just how being individual and like making sure that you are strong on your own really like keeps the relationship tight and sexy. Yeah. So I don't know. If anyone's into it, we'll do it in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think we should definitely talk about that. Tune in next Tuesday for the other 4 for the back end for the part 2.
What are we talking about?
Well, I can't tell you because that's the 4 other parts.
Right. We only got
4
3.
other hardest parts of relationships. The 4, I guess, increasingly harder part. I don't really know how to word it.
We're talking about love.
We're talking about all things love. Thank you guys so much for being here today. This was an awesome episode. I really dug this one. If you want to subscribe, I know this is live right now, but this is for the end title thing. If you want to subscribe, you subscribe right here.
On my face.
I don't know what that is. And then you can watch videos about relationships and about dating right here.
Make sure you check out Thursday's video. It's going to be
it's crazy. Awesome. Bye, y'all.